When you partner with Axon, you immediately gain access to a full range of products and solutions designed to meet the complex needs of today's grower. We carry all major brands and sizes of tires and wheels. We specialize in large diameter wheels for large equipment. We have one of the largest OEM replacement wheel inventories in North America. Known for extreme flotation setups, duals, and triples, we have wheels for all makes and models of tractors, sprayers, combines, and grain carts. If we don't have the wheel in stock, we'll custom build, sandblast, and paint in-house. There isn't a more vast inventory in North America dedicated to helping dealers move more iron. With facilities on the West Coast and in the heart of the Midwest, leverage our 230,000 square feet of indoor inventory to solve any problem a grower may have. Move more iron with Axon.
Moving iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. I got the guys back here from Valley Transportation. I've got Parker Johnson and Carson Olwelling. Am I saying it right?
Bet, you got it.
Nailed it. First try. Look at that. Broadcast professional. All right, got you guys back on here to talk about what's going on in the world of trucking. Carson, let's start with you first. Lay out a little bit as to what you're doing over at Valley and kind of what some of your background is.
Yeah, I'm safety director here at Valley. I've been doing that gig for the last 8 or 9 years. So, I mean, and more or less, I deal with accidents, cargo claims, DOT compliance, all the fun stuff, keeping up on regulation and keeping track of our inventory. But best way to describe it to our viewers is, you know, if we haul a tractor for you guys, John Deere case, whatever it is, and in transit, a window were to break out or, you know, something happens to that piece of equipment in transit, I would deal with that farmer, that grower or dealer, whoever's buying that tractor, the end user, and help them get that tractor fixed up, get the window replaced, get it back in the field working. And, you know, we don't necessarily use insurance for 99% of our cargo claims. We deal with them all right here in-house just because of our knowledge and experience with equipment. So we try and make it as painless as possible in the end customer.
Yeah. And yeah, well, I'll give you guys that much. You do a great job of handling the customers and taking care of all the stuff that's popped up. I've had some issues and it's been the easiest thing I've ever had to deal with. So it's awesome working with you guys when something like that pops up. So Parker, what's up, buddy? How you been?
Good. It's been a while since I've seen you down in Nashville. You recovered?
Slowly. I got back on my feet here this week. So it only took me a couple of months. You know what I mean? It's been
you guys put on once again, and I appreciate it.
No, I've loved having you guys there. You guys are a lot of fun, and you bring the transportation side in there, and it gives a lot of people an opportunity to see what you guys are doing and going from there. But you guys have a lot of customers that show up to that deal, and because you call for a lot of people all over the place, and it's one of those things where it's hard to find. We were kind of talking about this before we got started. It's hard to find, you know, transportation companies that haul heavy freight in general, and much less start talking about moving combines and 4-wheel drives and stuff like that. When you guys have done a really good job of niching yourselves into that heavy haul situation. We were talking about this when we got started that, you know, hey, times are starting to slow down. You start seeing people show up that are doing some, you know, hey, I'll haul this for you, or hey, I'll do that for you. You know, what's the couple things you should know, I guess, before someone starts hauling for you that comes out of the woodwork like that?
Yeah, make sure you got a copy of their insurance and that it's valid and stuff like that. And you know, Carson looks at all that stuff as well. So it's one huge thing. You know, we have our brokerage department that help us out move some stuff, and we do a background check on everybody to make sure their insurance is up to date. You know, and has enough coverage to cover that piece of equipment if for some reason that get totaled.
Yeah. That's the other side of it too, is they might have insurance. You have insurance? Sure. They don't tell you how much. Something goes and falls off the side. Next thing you got a $500,000 or $600,000 piece that's got $250,000 worth of insurance coming its way. That's a big problem.
Yeah. In the past couple months, you know, it's slowed down a little bit, kind of like it does every year during harvest season. And people are hungry. You know, there's people out there bidding freight that I mean, there's no way we could compete with their prices, but you don't know what you're going to get or if it'll ever even get picked up.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think that's the other side of that too is I love when someone calls in and they ask, hey, we want to haul your stuff. Great. Awesome. What's a combine look like? And they'll have no idea. Like, one person didn't even know it. What could you explain what that is? And I'm like, okay, we're good. We don't need, I mean, it's hard enough to find someone just to haul what you guys do and how you guys do it. It's hard enough to find someone to do that. And especially with the way the price of these machines have gotten so far, it's not just drive it on there, chain it down and hope for the best. It's a lot more to that.
Pieces are over 500 grand.
Yeah. It's a fair amount of stuff on the back of that trailer for sure.
It's kind of funny that, back in the day, late 80s, early 90s, you get all 2 John Deere 7720s and step deck trailer, and now you go into load a John Deere X9 or a Case 9250. I mean, your big class combines. I mean, you can't even haul them all together almost because they're too heavy and too big. You almost kind of got to ask yourself, when's it going to tap out? I can see it happening.
No, it seems like they keep coming up with this idea that they're going to make things bigger so they can offset the amount of machines that are out there, and what that looks like. So it's definitely going to be an interesting move as we start watching things become autonomous. What does that look like, and where do we start seeing those things come together? So it's going to be cool to watch that progression. What are some of the stuff you guys are seeing out there on the trucking front right now? So I mean, I know there's a million people out there that are talking about autonomous this and autonomous that, and everything's going to drive itself for too long. But on the trucking front, what do you guys see out there on that whole autonomous thing?
We've worked hard the last 35 years to kind of establish a late model fleet with newer trucks, newer trailers. So we're doing a lot with carb compliance and emissions out there on the coast, getting into ports and things like that. Fortunately, our trucks are all late models, so they can do all that stuff. We still got to register them and whatnot, but there's a lot of carriers out there with owner operators running glider kits, and I think they're going to have a rude awakening in the next 2, 3, 4 or 5 years out on the West Coast, getting stuff in and out of there. California's tough. I mean, it's really tough.
Yeah, it's I've shipped stuff to California before, and you got to get to when you get to the border, you got to go through the whole inspection of the make sure it doesn't have any crazy dirt or anything like that in it.
Fumigator and all that different stuff.
It's the there's that invisible wall that you drive through when you go to California. It's something else, but they have that part of California, especially, it's going to continue to get even more stringent. We're even looking at cattle and hogs and those kind of things based around some of the laws they're trying to pass when you look at confinements and those kind of things. So that's a whole nother thing about on what can come in and what can come out of there as well. So it's a crazy place when you start looking at the regulations associated with it. When you so I guess as you guys are looking at that, as you're looking at taking stuff in and out of California, those kind of things, like how is that affecting your freight costs, and how is that affecting how you deal with some customers in Iowa, for example, or something like that may be hauling something cross country like that?
I mean, it doesn't really. I mean, you just right now you bid at everything you possibly can just to get it. And we don't mind going to California because we do have some customers out of California too, so we always got stuff coming back out. But the way the prices are coming back out of California, it doesn't pay a lot, but there's nowhere else to go.
Right.
So you just take what you can get and get home.
It's not so bad when you know what you're getting into, right? You know what you're getting into when you're going out there. You know what kind of equipment you have to be running and what it's going to take to get out of there. So when you're prepared, I mean, it's just like anything in life. It's a lot easier, but being ill prepared out there is a bad deal. So, I mean, you spoke a little bit on the autonomous piece, and all I can think about, imagine hauling a 9620 at 12 wide and having to go down the road autonomously. I mean, you hit a low bridge or get into a width restriction. I mean, you're talking some pretty heavy technology to avoid that. So I think in our industry, they did a test. It was with Tesla, and they hauled a 53-foot dry van with Frito-Lay's chips, and I think the gross vehicle weight was like 45,000 maybe.
Right.
And so that's great. But let's imagine hauling equipment here. I mean, you're pushing 90, 100, 120,000 pounds.
On lighter stuff.
Yeah, how's that vehicle going to work with that, right? So,
Right. Yeah, I think definitely the autonomous trucking side of it will be the van stuff first, until they get that figured out. Because just like you said, I mean, you're 12 wide on going down the road and you hit some program doesn't recognize, oh boy, this isn't a construction, so this is a 9-foot restriction or whatever it is, that you got to do.
Let's get 16 wide like
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
We'll be having cargo planes, but the cargo plane will be coming from the autonomous vehicle hitting our vehicle. Then who's to blame?
Yeah, that's probably
you look at these
probably a good point.
collision mitigation systems on some of these newer trucks.
Yeah.
You got guys running trucks down the road, and they're going down the interstate, and they come up on an overpass, and the system will lock the truck brakes up and throw you into a bad situation because it senses that overpass as a vehicle in front of you, and those sensors are kind of messed up and tripping out. And, I mean, we've actually seen drivers leave other companies because of that technology. I mean, you're going down the road at 68 mile an hour loaded, and that truck wants to lock up the brakes on you because the bridge is coming up. So
yeah, that's so my wife's car has something similar to that where it'll slow you down. Set the cruise control, it'll slow you down if you go too fast. And if you're going down a hill at an angle, it'll start slowing you down because the sensors, and you're just pointed down just enough to where the hill's coming up that it catches that and it starts to make you slowing you down like you're going to hit something,
Yeah.
I think the reason it doesn't lock it up is because it keeps progressing past that point, so it's nice. Love it. Love the technology.
Really good.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about fuel costs and what that looks like and how that's going on. I mean, we've seen fuel come way down from what it was, this time last year. Obviously, it's way down from that point, but it's still not cheap either. So I guess as you're looking at fuel costs and those kind of things, what are you guys doing to help mitigate some of that cost when you guys are bidding stuff out?
I mean, it has definitely come down, but at the same time, the freight has come down too. So you're kind of, you're bidding a lot more competitively to, get the freight and keep our trucks rolling. I personally don't look a lot at the fuel cost. We kind of have a set rate of, what we bid it at is, we change it every week if it goes up or down. But, other than that, I mean, the prices in general have just come down as well. I mean, fuel could be at record highs again, but with the amount of freight that's out here, the prices are still going to be fairly low.
Right.
Just to stay competitive against other people. If somebody's shopping around, you want to be that low guy to get that freight to keep that truck rolling.
Yeah. Right on. When you guys are looking at what's hot and what's not, what are you hauling a lot of right now, machinery wise, and what are you not seeing as much of? You seeing a lot of combine stuff because it's kind of, obviously harvest is kind of, we're in the middle of harvest and all that, but I guess as you're looking around, like, what are you seeing a lot of right now?
Yeah, I mean, the combines kind of had their place, in the last month, everybody updating or getting something newer or whatever. Harvest season, just in general, it slows down some. Obviously, the row crop tractors are still moving, forage harvesters, construction equipment. Obviously, that's an all year round process. There's never any slow time for construction equipment,
Right. Yep.
But, I haven't seen like a lot of planters and tillage equipment. A few people, random farmers all across the country buying, chisel plows or whatever they might need in the fall. But otherwise, I mean, yeah, combines, row crop tractors, that always moves.
Yep.
So,
where are you seeing a lot of construction stuff going to? Where are you guys taking a lot of that to?
I mean, obviously Texas. I mean, they never stop down there.
They're constantly growing. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it goes everywhere. Texas is a huge area that we haul equipment to. So
yeah, sometimes I think Texas is going to annex like Arkansas and Louisiana someday and just make it part of Texas.
Yep.
Yeah, and they passed this infrastructure bill too. I mean,
yeah,
we do all our own oversized, overweight permitting in house, and that was a discussion last week that there's more road construction than ever. And, it makes routing a little bit difficult. But on the flip side to that, hopefully we're hauling some equipment to those contractors and road projects and helping build that infrastructure up. So
yeah, there's I can't believe how much road construction you see around here. Like,
Yeah.
Typically you get projects that, they last whatever, stretch of road or something like that. But some of these projects I've been watching people get into have been some pretty intensive, we're going to tear the whole road all the way out down to the dirt and go back in and just new concrete, new asphalt, the whole deal all the way back across. And
yeah, like I-80 through Nebraska, it seems like that's been our construction for the past 3, 4, 5 years.
I think they call it I-80 because it's been under construction since the 80s. I think that's why. It's freaking every time I go down there between Scottsbluff and like York, kind of where I go south when I go back to Wichita. But it's there's always you go 50, 60 miles and you hit a big construction project, and you go 50, 60 miles and hit a big construction project. And they're everywhere. It's just crazy how much construction is going on right now.
Everywhere.
For sure, but it also shows you how much we needed to update our infrastructure too, because it was getting a little shady in places for sure.
In Minnesota, it should start slowing down before too long. It's
Right.
Winter's not that far away. We're middle of October already.
Yeah.
Where'd the rest of this year go?
Yeah, no kidding, right? So now that we're talking a little bit about that, we're heading into winter. You guys had your first frost yet? You guys?
We've had a couple mornings where there's been some frost on the ground and windshields and stuff like that. And I think it was last week. I think one morning I woke up, I think it got down to like 26.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a day like that.
Some windshields this morning as well.
We haven't really had a killing frost yet for the crops, and that's showing up here. There's some soybeans still in the ground up here, and Parker farms, and I help my father-in-law and brother-in-law farm, and it's been an interesting year. Lack of moisture and things like that, but just fun to see how this equipment operates in all different conditions, right? And how the adjustments you got to make. So,
yep. How are crops up there?
I've had fields do over 200 bushel, and I've talked to people that get 130.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of the story this year.
Done yet, probably, and everything's pointing to over 200 bushel an acre corn, and our beans went I think 56, which is definitely down, but for the year that we've had, 56 is pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had the reports that I've been getting on just doing this with the commodity guys is that you'll go talk to one guy and one side. We're talking just the road. This is the only difference between where they're at. One side is, like you said, 200 bushels, 200 plus, something like that, 250 plus, 220, something like that. And right across the road is, it's 50% less, 135, 140. And it's all about where they got the rain and how much rain they got and heat units and how much of it was drought stricken, those kind of things. So the variability in the crop this year is going to be an interesting tell here towards the end when you start seeing how many actual bushels come out, and then the quality of those bushels when they come out too. That's going to be the other side of it too. So it'll be interesting to watch how that plays out towards the end of the year for sure.
Yeah, and like alfalfa or round bale prices for hay is absolutely insane. People have been feeding hay to their beef cattle since the middle of August, which never happens. Usually don't start feeding hay and silage until end of October or November.
Right.
And but the weird part is, for the weird of the growing season that we had without any rain, the alfalfa crop was probably one of the best we ever had. For some reason, that grew.
Yeah.
Pastures didn't grow, but the alfalfa did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how that works. Definitely funny how that works. When you are dealing with some customers right now, what are your lead times right now? Or do you have trucks about everywhere that are ready to go get stuff picked up?
We're definitely caught up, and I'll tell people 2 weeks to be on the safe side, but some days it might be that it might be the next day or the day after.
Yeah.
Sometimes it ends up being that we have somebody in the area that can grab it within 3-4 days or within a week. It's a great time to be trying to buy stuff if you need it quick, because there's available trucks all over the place.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. When last thing here is you're going down and you're looking through some things, as you look through what you see kind of happening right now in the trucking industry, it feels like most places like 23 is going to kind of finish out like it should, but looking out into 24, there's some big question marks that are kind of hanging out there. So I guess, Carson, we'll start with you first. What are your thoughts on that, and what do you see happening out there?
The biggest thing, I've been to a few conferences for the Minnesota Trucking Association and listening to the freight experts, right? And trucking or transportation is usually the first sign of what the economy's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we're, I hate to even mention it, but I feel like we're in that post-COVID effect now. And now transportation's feeling it. We're seeing a slight uptick in freight, but we're not going to see that rapid increase in freight, I don't think, in the next 12 months. We're hoping we see it, but right now it's finally starting to come back a little bit. But I think 2024 is going to be just a slow, steady incline. Hopefully, we're just trying to get through that and come out stronger on the other end of things, and keep hauling equipment, really. So,
how about you guys
Right
with
on.
your lots? They full of equipment and all stocked back up?
I think we're filling back up with certain things. I mean, obviously combines are everyone's issue. That's you hear that on about everyone you talk to, but I'm also in the camp that if you have more than 2 combines, you have a combine problem. So, I mean, so I kind of keep that going, but I look at, you look at row crop tractors, you're starting to see more of those show up. You're starting to see more 4-wheel drive show up. You're starting to see more, hay tools and stuff like that pop up that you hadn't seen in a while. A lot of these short line guys that you work with, you're starting to see more of their product come to the market. So I'm not in a big, I don't know how the best way to put this. I'm not really in a big panic mode about what's happening with the economy. I think what we see happening in pricing, those kind of things, has everything to do with if you had it on your lot, 2 years ago, year and a half ago, year ago, you could sell it for whatever you wanted to, right? And the price of new the way it was, and everything else just was the way it was. So they have this the scarcity premium thing that's going on there. So we're going through a correction, and all that stuff's kind of coming back down. It's really no different than, when the stock market hits an all-time high and has huge runs up and then all of a sudden has a sharp fall. I mean, that's just what we're seeing right now. And I think that's just going back to what this quote unquote new normal feels like. Right. And I think that's what we're seeing happen. And I'm not concerned that, the price of commodities are going to affect non-farm income. I do worry about interest rates. I think that's going to have some play into that. But, I also think that this is probably one of the better times in history for the upgrade kit to kind of start showing its face, where you can start, doing some bolt-on technology and those kind of things, just because of where we're at. You don't really have to buy the newest of the new now to get the technology that you want. You can alter some of the stuff that you have and get pretty close to the same thing. Few little things.
Talking about that, I think it was the closing arguments or whatever at the end of the Moving Iron Summit. People are talking about that. Like, you already got your 12-row or 24-row corn planter toolbar. Like, you can either go out and spend this much money or just upgrade this one to do about the same thing and maybe save yourself some.
Right. Yep. And I think you're going to see more and more of that pop up, especially over the next couple of years. I mean, holy crap, the amount of stuff that's coming down the pike from all these manufacturers is quite impressive. And as far as the technological leaps that you're going to see, not even just year over year, but even like quarter over quarter. I mean, it's just amazing what you're going to see start coming in. So it's going to be interesting to watch it. What are you seeing out there, Parker?
I mean, there's a big inventory. I mean, it seems like, you see a lot of stuff coming up on auction.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, people weren't, bringing stuff to auction because, I mean, they were selling it. You didn't have to go to the auction yard with your stuff. Mm-hmm. Now you see some auctions. There's a stuff out in, Indiana or Ohio, dealerships having a sale every Tuesday, just like an inventory reduction auction.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's going to start happening in more locations just to kind of get rid of some of their stuff, but I don't know what kind of a bath you take on the stuff taken to the auction compared to what you're asking for it, retail.
Yeah. Well, I think, it just depends on where you're at and what you do with it when you got it. So it'll be
on auction, the past few years has sold, extremely.
Yeah.
Back in the day, auctions, that was your last resort. You didn't want to take to the auctions because you didn't know if you thought, people are, going to bid it cheap. But with the online thing now,
mm-hmm.
everybody, it brings what it's probably worth.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see that, and that's in that online. The online auction it's kind of made the world a very small place when you look at the number of bidders now that can watch these auctions and buy stuff, and the number of international buyers that come in and watch stuff sell and those kind of things is pretty impressive too. But I really believe, it's over the last 5 years, used equipment's become a commodity as much as, a bushel of corn is. It's the same kind of deal where an auction is what someone wanted to pay for it that day. And that's exactly what it is. I mean, you get a couple of people fighting over it and, you raise the price up. But if it's just a normal run of the mill deal, I mean, kind of is what it is. And that's where you're at. Now, there are some consistencies in those. You see some now you don't see one selling for, a 8R or a Steiger or something like that out selling for, $100,000 one day and $400,000 the next, right? I mean, there's a little bit of consistency in there. When you watch those things, oddly enough, how consistent those guys are, those auction prices do sell is quite impressive. But it's just one of those things where you just it is what it is, and it's worth what it's worth. And, this is what the market says it's worth, and that's kind of what it is. And where the difference on the dealership side of that is that there's a lot more value that goes into that, because there's, you get someone, if it falls on his face, you've got your shop there to take care of it, and you've got, some financing options, and you got extended warranties and all those different things that come into play. So there is some value there too, and they'll take your trade. That's the other side of it too. And that's
another thing I've noticed, like around me where I live, I mean, land never goes for sale. And then this spring and this fall, stuff has started to come up for sale.
Yeah.
I don't know why, obviously land's at all-time highs. They're, cashing out, but
sure.
I don't know if you see the same stuff around you.
Well, we're seeing a lot of people retire, and
right.
I think there are a lot of guys that are going to retire in 12, 13, 14, something like that. And then, whatever happened, and they had to stick around a little bit longer, and they got in on this deal when it started and got out when it ended, and they're going to pack it in. So I had just released a podcast here I did with Chris Bauman out. He's the founder of Common Ground, which used to be called cashrent.com. And basically what they do is they have a listing site for rental, cash rent stuff, and, some ground for selling, those kind of things. But it's we're seeing a lot of ground that guys bring up that are, they're retiring, and you're seeing more guys that are either selling, like you're saying, or some guys are looking at it from a perspective of, hey, I'll have some passive income here and rent this ground. So you're seeing a lot more kind of changing of the guard, where you didn't have someone coming back to farm type deal, and you've got 1,500 acres or whatever it is, they've got laying around out there that the neighbor's going to pick up, that's got 4,000 or 5,000 acres they farm now, but they've got a son or daughter coming back into the operation, and they need a little extra juice so everybody can have something to eat. Yeah. For sure. But yeah, so I think we're going to see more of that. I think that's definitely something we're going to see. Significant more of the. You can just look at the average age of the American farmer. I think it's now like 70 almost. So it's sooner or later they're going to retire. Yeah.
Our average age is 47 years old. And
yeah.
Somewhat on the young side in trucking, really. I mean, your good old boys, just like farming, starting to phase out and train a lot more guys. And so.
Yeah. Well, there was a truck that came. Can't remember what store it came to. Anyway, came to one of the stores and picked something up, and there was a guy in there that I could tell he looked old, right? I mean, he wasn't like a spring chicken by any means, but I started talking to him, and he was 89 years old, still driving his truck, and I'm like, what? I always thought there was some kind of like cutoff there, like, okay, you're too old to drive a truck, but I guess not. So I guess.
No, we've done a retirement party for the same 2 or 3 times. So.
Yeah, keeps coming back. Yeah, that's the that's the other thing too, is just that, and then you got to replace all these guys with somebody else coming in, and that's where this labor thing is such a big deal. So
that's a lot more training now than it used to be. I mean, common sense is hard to come by anymore too. And
Yeah.
you just kind of take what you can get, and then hopefully it works out, and they end up doing a good job.
Yep.
As long as they're safe and they can tie stuff down and they're safe going down the road, I mean, that's the biggest thing.
Right on. Yep. I think that's the probably the most important thing right there, where you just tying it down part. That's probably the most important part of that, getting it down the road. So for sure. All right, fellas, probably a good place to stop. Carson, if folks want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
They can give me a call at our 800 number, 800-657-4910, or they can shoot me an email at carson@valleytransinc.com. My first name's Karsen. So
right on. Okay. Parker, everybody probably knows how to get a hold of you, but you might as well tell them one more time.
Yep, 800-657-4910, or shoot me an email at pjohnson@valleytransinc.com.
Right on. Well, guys, I appreciate you being on. I appreciate your partnership here over the course of 23 and 22, and look forward to working with you guys again in 24. And we'll see you back down in Nashville here for too long.
I can't wait. We should do it quarterly instead of yearly.
I don't know if I can handle that.
No.
The bounce back time is just not there like it used to be. You know what I mean?
No, it is a fun time, though. That's for sure.
Good. I'm glad you guys like coming to us. So, guys, appreciate you being on, and we'll catch you again next month.
All right. Thanks a lot, Casey. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, take it easy, man. I'm Casey Seymour with Moving Iron Podcast. Check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Moving Iron LLC. Go to LinkedIn at Moving Iron Podcast. Check out the YouTube channel, which is the Moving Iron Podcast YouTube channel, and go to movingironllc.com for everything Moving Iron related. You got some big announcements coming up here over the next couple of months that you should pay attention to. Also got a new website coming out too, so sooner than later, hopefully by the first of the year. So with that, I am Casey Seymour with Parker and Carson. Smooth Iron folks, out.
Moving higher in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving higher.